Hello there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and thanks for stopping by the channel today. It is week 5 of the 2023 Amigurumi Advent Calendar Crochet Along, and for today's tutorial we're going to be making these adorable little sneakers for our Advent Adam dolls. For this week, we have 2 pattern releases as part of the Crochet Along. So when you're done making your shoes, make sure to pop on over to the channel to check out the tutorial to make this striped t-shirt for Adam as well. And when you're done, you'll have your full outfit for Adam. So let's hop into what materials we're going to need in order for you to follow along with today's tutorial. So to follow along with today's tutorial, you're going to need worsted weight yarn in 2 colors of your preference. So I'm using We Crochet's Bravo worsted weight line in 2 different colors. I'm using Tranquil and Dove Heather. And in my sample here, I just used Bravo in white for the soles and laces and red for the body of the sneakers. You're going to need a 3.5mm or E crochet hook, or whatever hook size you need to obtain the gauge that's given in the pattern. If you need that information, you can find that over on my blog, theloopylamb.com, on the homepage, and the written version of this pattern that is available to view for free on the blog as well. You will also need a locking stitch marker, or any stitch marker if you have a personal preference, a tapestry needle, and a pair of scissors. So let's clear my workspace here and we'll get ready to get started making our running shoes for our doll. All right, so we're ready to get started making our doll's running shoes, and we're going to be starting with the lighter of your 2 colors, or whatever color you've selected to be the bottom of your shoes. On my sample here, I used white for the soles of the shoes, and today on the camera, so you can see what we're doing, I'm going to be using the color Dove Heather. To start the shoe, we're going to start by creating a magic circle. So we're going to hold the tail end of our yarn in our hand like so and pin it down with our thumb. Then we're going to take the working end of the yarn, and we're going to wrap it around our fingers, bringing it around and crossing it over itself like this to create an X. Then we're going to flip our hand over and take the working yarn and pin it between your ring finger and your middle finger there. Now we're going to grab our crochet hook, and we're going to insert our hook under the first strand and up and over the second, and we're going to pull that second strand out and under the first strand. Then we're going to twist our hook like this, and we're going to create this little cross in the yarn. Now we're going to angle our hook, and do you see this second strand here? We're going to pick that up with our hook, yarn over and pull that through the loop on our hook. And now we have completed our magic circle. So we're going to take it off our fingers and we are ready to go. So now we are ready to start with round 1. Make sure that you have your stitch marker handy because we're going to be needing that in just a few moments. So starting round 1, we're going to work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. To do that, we're going to take our hook and we're going to insert it into the magic ring. Then we're going to yarn over hook and pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook, and we're holding the magic ring in our hands here so that way we don't lose tension on the ring. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. And that is your first single crochet completed. And we're going to do this 5 more times, so we have a total of 6 stitches. So we're going to insert our hook back into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. There's 2 loops on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. That's your second single crochet completed. And we'll do that again, back into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. That's your third single crochet completed. So we'll continue this until we have 6 single crochets. So I have my 6 single crochets. I know that I have 6 because if I flip my work up and I see the little V's on the top of my work, I can count them and I know that I have 6. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now that I have those 6 stitches, I'm going to pull the tail end of my yarn here to close my ring. So now that it is pulled tight, you can see that it starts to close the piece and we have what looks like a U shape here. So now we're ready to start with round 2, and we're going to need that stitch marker after completing our first stitch. For round 2, we will be placing a single crochet increase into the first stitch. Now, a single crochet increase is when we place 2 single crochets into the same stitch, and I'll show you how to do that now. So I'm going to insert our hook into the first stitch of the last round. Now this might be a little difficult depending on how tightly you did your first stitch. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. That's our first single crochet completed, and we're going to pick up that stitch marker and place that into the stitch we just completed. We're going to be moving the stitch marker up in every consecutive round so we can keep track of that first stitch of every round. So we've done 1 single crochet in this stitch, but we need 2 to execute our single crochet increase. So we're going to insert our hook back into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And that's our second single crochet completed. And now we have completed our single crochet increase. So now we need to do a single crochet increase into every stitch around. And again, that single crochet increase is when we place 2 single crochet stitches into the same stitch. So inserting our hook into the next stitch here, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. Then we're working back into that same stitch, yarning over and pulling up a loop, then yarn over and pull through both loops. That's your second single crochet increase completed. And now we're going to continue to do this all the way around our piece. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're going to continue to do this, 2 single crochets worked into every stitch around. At the end of this round, you should have 12 single crochet stitches. And now we're ready to move into round 3. We're going to move our stitch marker out of the way here, and we're going to be working into the first stitch of the round, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that stitch. So inserting our hook here, we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and finish our single crochet. Then we're going to move up our stitch marker. Now we're going to do a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. So we're going to insert our hook and do 2 single crochets into this same stitch. And now what we've done is we've just completed our first repeat for this round. And when I say we've completed our repeat, what I mean is we have a stitch pattern that we're going to repeat around this round. So our repeat is 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochets, or a single crochet increase into the next. We are going to need to repeat this pattern 6 times total around our piece. So we've done this once and we're going to do it 5 more times. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch here, and a single crochet increase or 2 single crochets into the same stitch into the next. Right? So 1 single crochet into the first stitch, 2 single crochets into the next. And we're just repeating this all the way around our piece. 1 single crochet in the first stitch, single crochet increase into the next. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, single crochet increase into the next. So that's our 5th repeat here, and we're doing this 1 more time. And at the end of round 3 here, you should have 18 stitches. So now we're ready to move on to round 4. For round 4, we're going to move our stitch marker and we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch. Move up your stitch marker. And then we're going to do a single crochet increase into the next. And now we have a pattern repeat that we're going to repeat a total of 5 times. And I'll show you that repeat now for the first time. We're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So here's 1, and 2. And now we're going to work a single crochet increase into the next stitch. So again, that's those 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. And that's our repeat, 1 single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, followed by a single crochet increase into the next. We need to do this repeat a total of 5 times. So we've done this once and we're going to do it 4 more times. When we're done our repeating, we should have 1 stitch left to be worked in this round. So I'll show you that repeat again. We're going to single crochet once into the first stitch and the second stitch. And then we're going to do a single crochet increase into the next. Okay, there's our second repeat completed. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, followed by an increase or single crochet increase into the next. So if you'd like to pause your video and finish your repeats, we're going to have to do 2 more repeats of that. And then when you're done your repeats, you should have 1 stitch left to be worked. And I'll meet you back here to show you how to do that last stitch in just a moment. So I'm back and I just finished my 5th repeat of that 2 single crochets followed by a single crochet increase, and I have 1 stitch left to be worked in this round, and I'm going to place 1 single crochet into that stitch. Now at this point, it's a good time to check your gauge, and if you have a ruler or a measuring tape handy, you can take this here. You're going to measure across the widest point of your piece. So the widest point is generally where we just finished crocheting. You can see my working yarn here on the right hand side, and we're going to go from this side of the piece across the other side. You want to do this measurement on a flat surface that's hard. You do not want to do this, let's say, on your leg or on the couch where you could possibly be measuring a warped piece. So we're going to take my measuring tape here, I'm going to lay it across, and I'm going to measure from front loop to front loop, from one side to the next. And in order for your shoe to fit your doll, this piece should measure 1.5 inches across at this point. All right. So we're ready to move on to our round 5. And for round 5, we're actually going to start by changing colors. So I'm going to take this last stitch out of round 4, and I'm going to show you how to change the colors here. So I'm going to insert my hook into that last stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop like I'm going to do a single crochet. But now I need to do my last yarn over for this stitch in the new color. So I'm going to put this down and pick up my new color, which for me is the color Tranquil here. I'm going to lay the yarn over the hook. You can see I'm using a slip knot. You don't need to do that. It's just a little more secure for me here on the camera to do that. So I've got my new color. I've yarned over hook with the new color, and I'm just going to pull that through the last stitch. Okay. So now we're ready to move on to round 5. For round 5, we're going to be working every stitch of this round in the back loop only. So I'm going to get rid of our stitch marker here, and we're going to take a look at our stitches. If you angle your piece upwards so you can see the V's at the top of your piece, or the tops of your stitches, you can see that there's 2 separate strands that make up each V. There's one that's closest to you and one that is furthest from you. The one that is closest to you is the front loop, and the one that is furthest from you is the back loop. So we're going to be inserting our hook through the back loop only. So instead of both loops, we're picking them up. We're only going to pick up this back loop for this round. So we're going to work our first stitch of round 5, and we're going to slip stitch into every stitch around in the back loop only. So we're going to take our hook and we're going to identify the back loop only. We're going to insert a hook from the top of the stitch and out through the back of the fabric, picking up that back loop. Then we're going to yarn over hook and pull up a loop. Then we're going to pull that loop we just pulled up through the loop on our hook already and pull that all the way through. Then we're going to place our stitch marker into that stitch. and we're ready to move on to our second stitch. So into the next stitch, we're going to insert through the top of the stitch, pick up that back loop only, then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And this is what we're going to do around the entire piece. Into the next stitch, through the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on our hook. We're just doing this all the way around our piece. So if you'd like to pause your video and do one slip stitch through the back loop only in every stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 5 to show you how we're moving on into round 6. So I just finished my last slip stitch of round 5. I still have 24 stitches around. I should not have any changes in stitch count. And I forgot to mention at the end of last row, you can now cut your first color. We're not going to be needing that again for a little while. So we can get that out of the way here. And we're proceeding only with your main color of your shoe here. And again, for me, that's this color Tranquil. So for round 6, we're going to be working in the back loop only again, but in this round, we're going to be doing a single crochet instead. So I'm going to pull that stitch marker out, and I'm going to insert my hook through the back loop only of the first stitch. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Now we're going to insert our stitch marker into that stitch, and we're ready to move on to our second stitch. So again, we're just picking up that back loop only and doing a single crochet, which we've done many of already. So if you'd like to pause your video and do the entire round, working one single crochet into every stitch, working through the back loop only, I'll meet you here at the end of round 6 to show you how we're moving into round 7. So I just finished my last stitch of round 6 and I'm moving into round 7. I still have 24 stitches. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker and I'm going to work one single crochet into each stitch around. So we've already done this before. We're just working into this first stitch with a single crochet and moving up our stitch marker. Now rounds 7, 8, and 9 are all done the same way, where we're just going to work one single crochet into each stitch around. So if you would like to pause your video and do rounds 7, 8, and 9, working one single crochet into each stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 9 and show you how we move into round 10. So I'm back and I just finished my last stitch of round 9 and I'm moving into round 10, moving that stitch marker out of the way. I'm going to work one single crochet into each of the first 9 stitches. So placing my first single crochet here and moving up my stitch marker. And then I have 8 more single crochets to work, so one into each of the next 8 stitches. 4, and there is our 9th single crochet. So now that I have 9 single crochets, I'm going to begin by doing single crochet decreases to close the toe of our shoe. Now we can do these in the front loop only, which will help make them a little bit more invisible, and it's called an invisible decrease for that reason. So we're going to take a look at our stitches and find the front loop only of the first and the second stitch, because we're going to work our single crochet through the front loop only of those 2 stitches. So we're going to insert our hook under the front loop of the first stitch, and then we're going to twist our hook and angle it so we can pick up the front loop of the second stitch. So then we're going to yarn over and pull the loop through both of those first 2 loops. We should now have 2 loops on our hook. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And that's our single crochet decrease completed. Now we're going to do 5 more single crochet decreases. So again, into the next stitch, pick up the front loop only, and then twist your hook so you can pick up the front loop only of the second stitch. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up loop. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. And we're now going to do this 4 more times in the front loop of the first and second stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over and pull through 2. So there's 3, 5, and 6. So now that I have my 6 single crochet decreases completed, I'm going to work 1 single crochet into each of these remaining 3 stitches. All right, so your piece should look like this. You can see that we are starting to close the front of the shoe. So now for rounds 11 through 12, they're going to both be done the same way. We're going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch round. And I forgot to mention that at the end of our previous round, round 10, you should have 18 stitches around. So if you'd like to pause your video now and do rounds 11 and 12, working 1 single crochet into each stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 12 and show you what we're doing moving into round 13. So I just finished my last stitch of round 12 and I'm ready to move into round 13. So I'm going to move my stitch marker out of the way here and work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. I'm going to move up my stitch marker. And then I'm going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And now we are finished our shoe. We're going to leave the remaining stitches of this round unfinished, but we have to do a special finishing technique here to even up the some people call it a jag. There's a bit of a jump between the start of the round and the other round and the start of this new round here. So we want to eliminate that step between the 2 places. So we're going to do what's called an invisible finish. It's also been called an invisible join. So I'm going to cut a tail of at least 6 to 8 inches here from my yarn, cut my yarn, and then I'm going to pull the yarn tail all the way through my last stitch. So I'm going to grab my tapestry needle here and thread my tail onto my tapestry needle. And we are ready to get started with doing our invisible join. Now, this is one of my favorite finishing techniques. It's really quick and easy, and it just finishes things off nicely. So we're going to insert our tapestry needle through the second stitch from where we're at. So we're going to skip this first stitch here and insert our needle into the next stitch. So just like we would our crochet hook, we're inserting that needle under both loops from front to back, and then we're going to pull that yarn tail all the way through. And so what this is going to do is this is going to use our yarn tail to replicate the look of the top of the stitch, and then it's also going to pull our stitches here on the right side down and kind of even this section out. So now that I've got that evened up, I'm holding some tension on the yarn with my fingers back here. And now I'm going to insert my needle through the last stitch that I did. And I'm going to go in through the top of the stitch and pick up that back loop only. So again, this is the last stitch that I actually crocheted. I'm taking my needle, going through the top of the fabric or top of the stitch out through the back of the fabric and under that back loop only. I want to make sure that I'm not going through here where the yarn is, because I'll have a little knot on my hand. So I'm going to go underneath that loop with my yarn and I'm going to pull that tight. Now we want to make sure that we have a good tension on here, and we want to pull the tail until it looks like a normal stitch. You can see a little bit of my yarn tail from the yarn loop from the actual stitch here, and that's not a huge deal here. If I really wanted to, I could play around with this, take my tapestry needle and really push that yarn tail down so it sits right on top of that yarn tail, and then pull my working yarn here until it's kind of evened up nicely. So now that I've done that, it looks really good to me. I'm going to weave in my ends with my tail. Now I'm weaving the ends in on the back of the fabric. When you're weaving your ends in, you want to weave your tail in at least 3 to 4 different directions. So I've gone down, I've gone this way, and I've gone up again, and then I'm going to go back down in through those next stitches here. And doing that will help make sure that your yarn tail isn't going anywhere. Even after your child has played with this shoe, it's stretched it onto the doll multiple times, it should be good to go. So I'm happy with where I'm at now. I'm going to cut my yarn tail. And we can set that yarn tail aside. So this is what your shoe should look like at this point. All right. So I'm going to remove my tail, and then I'm going to grab a piece of yarn in my first color. So for me, my first color was that gray, and I'm going to cut a piece of yarn, probably about 10 inches or so. It's going to be way more than I need, but again, better to have more than I need than not enough. So I'm cutting that tail, and I am going to thread that onto my tapestry needle. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be working on adding our little laces, and I'll bring in my first sample here so you can get an idea here. We're just going to embroider these 3 little lines across our shoe to create our laces. So you can start this however you'd like. You can tie a knot and have the knot on the inside of the fabric. I like to turn my shoe inside out and just kind of weave the yarn tail in just like I normally would. I go back and forth 3 or 4 directions before I start actually using it. You could also tie the ends when we're finished this together, so that way you can tie a little knot on the inside. I'm going to double back on where I was at. All right, so there we go. Now I'm going to turn my shoe the right side out. So I've got my tail all woven in or secured. Again, if you do a knot, that's totally cool. You can do that however you'd like. And we're going to add our laces. So for me, the easiest way to find out where I want to add the laces is I'm going to flatten that bottom of the shoe, the sole there. And so I can really clearly identify where the front of the shoe is. And so I'm just going to eyeball where I'd like those laces, and I'm going to come out of the fabric where I'd like to start one lace and go back in through. I like to go over 3 stitches, or total. So here's 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going back into the fabric. Okay. So there's 1 lace. Then I'm going to come out the stitch immediately below where I was, come back out there and go into the stitch immediately below where I started. And then I'd like to have 3 laces, so I'm going to come out immediately below that stitch I just went into. And then I'm going across. Now there's a bunch of decrease stitches here, so it's not as easy as these first 2 rounds to just count over stitches, because they've kind of blended together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of eyeball whereabouts the yarn would line up with these 2 here, and I'm going to go into the fabric here. And then I'm going to pull that tight. And there are my laces. You can add 2, 3, you can omit them if you'd like, but I think it's a really nice little added detail to the front of the shoes. So now that I have my laces done, I'm going to need to just secure the ends here, so you can turn that inside out. If you left your first tail hanging out here, you can tie those together and tie a knot, or if you're like me, you can just weave them in. And so that is it for our shoes. I'm not going to have you watch me weave in my ends all over again. That's no fun, but I'll turn my shoe on the right side out and show you here. My shoe is now complete, but you need a second shoe. So rewind the video here and watch the instructions that we just did for our first shoe. And then you'll have 2 shoes that you can either put on your doll immediately, or you can place them into your advent calendar that we're doing for our Amigurumi Advent Calendar crochet along. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. If you enjoy free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.